Welcome to the Classic Tetris Insider. Classic Tetris events, news, highlights, community spotlights, and highlights hosted by Sharky. Hello everyone, I am your favorite underwater host Sharky, and welcome to the Classic Tetris Insider. For those that are unaware, this show is essentially like SportsCenter, but for Tetris. The show consists of everything from news of classic Tetris events, to spotlights, to things that happen in the community. The timestamps for everything we'll be talking about in this episode are shown on screen right now, and they're also down in the description. With that, let me give you a rundown of today's show. Today we'll be covering the Classic Tetris Monthly Tournament from 2 weeks ago. Then we will go over events that are coming up like the Classic Tetris Nations League from the Latin American community. Then we're going to dive headfirst into CTWC news, including the massive qualifiers that took everyone by storm last week. And lastly, we're going to be going into community spotlights and top 5 plays for this bi-weekly period. It's going to be a jam-packed episode, so go grab a drink and a snack, and let's head into the wild CTWC precursor that is Classic Tetris Monthly, hosted by Van Dweller. Before we dive into the massive things that happened in CTM, I wanted to apologize because some of the information in the pilot episode of The Insider was incorrect in terms of correct broadcasting time. It was changed to be 3 hours later than the time I had said in the last episode, so for those of you that missed the spectacular live event due to that, I deeply apologize. Now, CTM October was the biggest CTM we have ever seen. The event itself ran nearly 8 hours with numerous games going the distance. As I said in the last episode, the qualifying system for the month was changed to an average of 3 format in 90 minutes as opposed to highest score in 60 minutes. This system favors consistency, but it didn't stop any of the top players from making their usual spot in the bracket. The list of players and their seeds is going to be shown on screen right now. One of the amazing things for this qual was that the highest average wasn't by JD or Joseph Saley, who had an astounding average of 1,172,000. But in fact, it was held by Corion, who had an average of 1.2 million. For perspective, that's a score that 47 people in the world have achieved at least once. And that was his average. To make it even more exciting, the lowest average, with the exclusion of Seed 16, which got their entry from winning Challenger Circuit the week prior, was 991,000, just 10,000 points away from a maxed out average. Before we move on to the gameplay section, I must warn, it will contain spoilers. Also, that I won't be highlighting everything, so if you want to see the tournament in its full glory, be sure to check out the VOD on the Classic Tetris channel. Link that will be linked in the description, as well as you can wait for the likely recap video from a Game Scout. Skip to the time on screen now if you don't want to see any spoilers from CTM. But enough about qualifying, let's move on to the tournament itself, starting with the most terrifying bracket, the Orange Bracket. The Orange Bracket was truly scary. With CTM Master winners Corion, Richard, and Jake in it, we were bound to see something crazy. Game 1 of Corion vs. Richard was crazy. Corion transitions into level 26 at 906,000, and Richard transitions to level 26 at 954,000. Both on pace for a 1.1, and Richard, if he's playing perfect, is on pace for a 1.2.
906 Corion, 922 Richard, 879 Jake, and 877 for Tristop. Everybody on max out pace here in round 1. Corion basically one Tetris away and changed from max out. Richard just about max out. I mean, everybody's like a Tetris and a little bit from max out at this point. 9-7. My head's gonna melt and I'm gonna miss everything. Corion's got the 1,000,000 points. Richard's got the 1,000,000 points. Jake just under. Jake's board is in trouble. Tristop needs a long bar down the right side. Where's the long bar for Tristop? Jake's going to top out at 995. There's the long bar for Tristop. Oh, he can't get it over to the right. He can't get it over to the right. He needs 6,000 points on the right side. Still needs 3,000 points. Where's the long bar for Tristop? He's going to get a double into a Tetris, and he's going to take game 1. And Corion, Richard with the 1.1. Corion needs a long bar to take the lead. He's got the long bar. B18 from Corian. They're both going to top out. 1.1s on the left side from Corian and Richard. And Tristop takes the game from Jake at the last moment.
In addition to this insane conclusion to this game one, it was a universal highlight from all 4 players, as Tristop would also go to max out and Jake just fell short of a max out by 4,740 points. But Corian's reign of terror wouldn't stop after that game one. There he would go on to get 1, 2,
so we can start scoring again, potentially get some points past kill screen if, you know, Corian. Now Corian's got the million points at 218 lines, and Richard's gonna miss the Z tuck here, and Richard's gonna top out at 780, and Corian is gonna get the heart. 3
more consecutive maxes, leading to 4 back-to-back maxes in competitive play. Let's take a look at his final max here.
844 open again, blocks the well again, gets a long bar over for another Tetris. 881. Corian up by 80,000 points. He's going to get another Tetris. 994. Corian's got 5 lines in hand over Jake. Jake not really set up for anything here. 7 lines from the thrill screen. Jake having to set up an all-in situation for a Tetris on the right. Corian's got the million points.
But that's enough talk about the orange bracket. Onward to the next highlighted bracket, the green bracket. In the green bracket, round 1, we have Fractal versus the defending world champ, Joseph, locked in a close battle in game 2. And this particular game ended up with an astonishing finish, and the winner and how they won might just surprise you.
Where the long bar comes. And there's a long bar for Fractal, 996. Joseph's got the million points. Fractal almost there with the million points. Joseph has a few lines in hand. Fractal with a clean board. Joseph with not a clean board. Fractal's got the million points. Fractal's got a Tetris into the lead. 835 for Fractal. Joseph's back by 1,000 points. Both players on 227. Joseph with a Tetris. A70. Fractal. A72. Fractal gets a double over there. A81. Both players 200 point separation. Fractal A85, Joseph A83. Joseph's gonna top out and Fractal's gonna win by under 3,000 points. And Fractal gets a heart.
There is plenty more excellent Tetris that happens in the other brackets, so be sure to check out that action. But for now, the semifinals. In the semifinals, we have Corian versus Dog. After their first game, they had an incredibly close match to see whether or not both end up tied or if one is going to be one step closer to the finals.
Players, good stacks. Dog gets another Tetris. Corian answers. 897 now for Corian, 984 for Dog. Level 26. Great ratio for Dog. But Corian sneaking back in there. Tetris ready with that T-piece, gets a long bar, 968 now for Corian.
Dog's got the million points. And he's setting up. Look where he's setting up. So dangerous. And Corian's got the million points.
Max here.
And Dog wants that Tetris so bad, but he's kind of ruining his stack to get it. He can't get the piece over to the left, and Dog is going to top out at 1,031,000 points. And Corian is good. Dog kind of went all in on that Tetris, and I think it was too aggressive.
I think it was the pieces.
Well, I think he had options. I don't think he had to go for that Tetris, but he just went for it.
He stayed high. He stayed high. If he had gotten it.
After this, both players find each other locked in a dead heat in the decider. Dog is one Tetris behind, but needs to do something to try and outscore Corian in the last game.
99.
Dog is just tucking away to avoid any burns, but he has got to take some here.
Corion's got the million. He's got another Tetris, 1,042,000. Dog with a Tetris. He's just under the million here. Corion, just one Tetris available till the kill screen. 1,081,000. Dog can get one more Tetris, and what can he do past the kill screen? So he's got a plan. Dog has to plan here to try to get a Tetris and then some more points here, and he can do this. 20,000 points up, but that right side is going to be closed off for Dog, and he can't get a long bar over, and Dog is going to top out, and Corion is going to make his way into the finals, outlasting Dog. Dog playing Tetris really needs...
That is all I'll be covering from CTM, so if you want to see what happens in the finals or the rest of the tournament, like I said earlier, be sure to check out the VOD in the Classic description, or you can wait till Classic Tetris uploads the matches, or wait for a recap that's going to be most likely made by Game Scout sometime in the future. But now to talk about events that are happening within the Classic Tetris community. For the events, there won't be too much to discuss because of the CTWC tournament happening, but there are a few things in the works, so let's go ahead and get into them. First thing coming up is the NTSC Latin American community is the Classic Tetris Nations League. I paraphrased some of the information provided by one of the organizers of the tournament, Guerrero. For more information, please join the Latin American Discord server, which will be linked down in the description below. Classic Tetris Nations League. This tournament will be held in a format different from what we are used to, but to build up the national pride of the community looking for a very competitive scene. Qualifying opened on the 12th, but it doesn't end till Sunday, October 25th. You can be on emulator, original, or clone console, but no mouse tapping is allowed. The prize pool is determined by donations received. So if you're interested in taking a look at this new tournament and potentially joining, especially if you live in Latin America or you just want to support your country, whether it be, someplace out in Africa or Europe, then be sure to join the description, or be sure to join the Discord down in the description below for more information on how this tournament will work and everything. Secondly, with events, the Classic Tetris Gauntlet is undergoing a new season right after CTWC Top 8 concludes. But this new season is going to be different. With the upcoming Insiders, there's going to be a lot more information as time develops, but essentially this new season can change the way we look at competitive Tetris. I'm sure the majority of you guys watching know things about basketball, football, baseball, etc. Well, for this next season, I'll be taking the formats of things like the NBA and putting it with Tetris. This is not going to be like classic Tetris games where it's overall team score that determines which team wins. Each individual will have to face their opponent and try and win that match for them. Each team will have their own team name, their team logo, and their team merch. There will be a draft, playoffs, and everything. It's an ambitious project, but I really feel like it can be something. Currently, there's no information about it out right now, but if you want to be the first to know, join the Classic Tetris Gauntlet Discord server, which is also located in the description. With the events all discussed, we can now move on to what everyone has been waiting for, CTWC News and Qual's Overview. This section contains all the information I currently know about CTWC. After the news, we'll be diving into the Quals day by day. The Qual section does contain spoilers for all those who made the bracket and such, as well as some epic qualifiers. So if you want to be surprised when we get to that section, be sure to skip to the time code on the screen at that time. But without further ado, let's get into CTWC News. First, a special announcement for all the players that are competing in the tournament from the tournament organizers. In your matches, under no circumstances are soft resets allowed. If you soft reset in your game, no matter if you're behind or in the lead by 200k, you will automatically lose the game. No exceptions. Secondly, this is their second announcement. Participants, if you haven't already, please go to the Max Out Club website and calibrate your capture card to the site. There are many that have, but a few that haven't. Please get this done ASAP. Thank you. The link to the Max Out Club website will be in the description. Now on to the main news. The CTWC main tournament bracket will consist of 64 players going head-to-head to fight for the crown. With the tournament being online, the rules have been changed up since we can't do same piece set matches this year until the top 8, but more on that later. The top 64 will be divided into 8 brackets of 8. These brackets will be double eliminations, and the winners of the top 8, or the winners of these brackets, will go to the top 8 broadcasts. The top 8 will be reseeded based on performance. And there will also be same piece sets for the top 8. The prize pool is confirmed at $10,000. It will be split up with the top 16, similar to how it was last year. Brackets 1 and 2 will be played on October 31st. Brackets 3 and 4 will be played on the 1st of November. 5 and 6 will be played on the 7th. And 7 and 8 will be played on the 8th of November. Bracket dates could change, meaning that which brackets play on which day could change, but this is, as far as my information, very accurate. In addition to this, you can see all of this on the Classic Tetris channel on Twitch and potentially Classic Tetris 2 on Twitch as well. The links to both of those channels on Twitch will be linked down in the description, so be sure to follow them, have your notifications turned on so you can see whenever these streams do go live. In addition to the main bracket, this year this will be the first year that CTWC hosts a silver bracket. The next 32 seeds 65 through 96, will be playing in their own tournament. According to what I know, there is going to be a prize pool, and the broadcast is going to be on the 21st of November, and the top 8 will be on the 22nd of November. Also, the commentators of the event are going to be myself and the world champion Joseph Saley. Unfortunately, the exact prize pool hasn't been confirmed yet, so we'll have to wait till more information comes out. Now that all the information regarding CTWC has been said, we'll be moving on to the qualifying overview. Once again, this section contains spoilers for people who all made the bracket and such, as well as some epic qualifiers, so if you want to be surprised, be sure to skip to the time code on the screen. With Monday being the first day qualifiers were open, we had 11 people attempting their quals that day. Most notably, we have 5 players debuting in their quals. Among these 5 were 2 that were heavily anticipated as contenders that can rival JD on who can take the crown this year. These 2 players being Jake and Dog Playing Tetris. Jake, with a 1.35 million personal best, did his qualifier first out the 2 and set up a very impressive 5 max outs in the 2-hour limit. But things were just starting to heat up. A few hours later, Dog will begin his quals, and with a 1.35 PB also, we are excited to see what he can do, and what a surprise he had in store for the viewers. Not only did Dog match Jake's number of max outs, but he got an additional one, putting him at 6 max outs, securing first seed for the day. Jake's current seed in this tournament is 8th, while Dog was seeded at 4th. Hydrant Dude, Eggmaster, and Huff all qualified for the top 64 at 62nd, 36th, and 18th, respectively. Also, CTWC 2019 participant Keith Wong managed to make his way into the silver bracket with an 898,000, just missing the main bracket cutoff, but has 4th seed in the silver bracket. With that day recapped, let's jump into another action-filled day. Tuesday was an exciting day featuring several veterans such as Quaid, Corion, and Jonas, while also featuring new debuts like Dog's brother Pixel Andy, Ninu, and the surprise newcomer Anna, which more on her later. To start the day, we have Jonas, who quals with a max out, but at the end of the quals that only gets him 31st place. If only one max out gets you in the middle of the bracket, how insane was this qualifier as a whole? Keep watching to find out. Anyway, shortly after Jonas's qual, Andy had an outstanding qual. Being one of the few players that has a DAS 1.2, he managed to tie his brothers in max outs, getting 6 max outs in his quals. He ended up having a kicker of 924,000, so 50k underneath his brothers, which ended up getting him 6th seed overall. But that was just the beginning. Another spotlight of this day was the quals of Ninu and Corion. Corion, being the CTWC 2019 finalist, is bound to have an excellent qualifier with this year, with a year of improvement. And in his qual, there was no short of excellence. He managed to get 3 max outs, which put him in 13th seed. And to finish the night, Ninu, one of the more promising debuts, didn't disappoint when he put on a marvelous show, tying Jake with 5 max outs, getting him 9th seed. In addition to those players, Quaid also maxed out in his quals, getting him 25th seed. Other players that made the bracket out of the 14 that qualified that day was Jordan at 58th seed, Noel at 74th seed, and Anna at 76th seed. Eli made it at 94th, and Joey managed to get the last seed at 96th. The week has just begun and we haven't even reached the peak of the qualifiers yet. Let's go ahead and move on to the next day of qualifying. Wednesday was another interesting qualifier that was full of surprises. Numerous veterans qualified on this day, as well as a few new gen players, making it quite a good mix. Before we get into the highlights though, there was something that was absolutely wholesome. The oldest player to ever qualify for this event debuted today. Uncle Mike, a 59-year-old competitor, did a qualifying run, and it was absolutely one of the most enjoyable things ever. Be sure to check out a Game Scouts video for more about this amazing story of Uncle Mike and Anna. Anyways, Redshirt, a graduate from the CTWC bootcamp held by Sharky, managed to be one of the 2 players this day to get a max out, seating him at 34th seed, going up against Jonas. Ooh. Outside of him, only Svavar and Radmir, who got the second max, managed to get into the top 64. Trey, Buko, and Packy all ended up in the silver bracket with a 909, 894, and an 847 respectively. And to the shock of many, Chris Brady was unable to make either bracket with a qual score of 692,000. 2 other players that made the bracket is Tetris coach Valor at 85th seed and Nihilus, who debuted this year and ended up in 72nd seed. With the third day down, we move on to one of the most frustrating days of quals, Thursday. Thursday was probably one of the most frustrating days of them all. We had 19 people qualify on this day, with 1.2 players, BV, LaserMonkey, Luke, and Sharky, as well as other Max Out Plus players, including 2019 German champ Mark, exciting newcomer Doge, and Asian Anthony, who is making his debut this year. Anyways, to start off with some of the good, BV09, aka Brendan, starts the day out strong, not only achieving his personal goal of getting 1 max out, but getting 5 times the amount he wanted. Those 5 max outs put him at 10th seed. Then shortly to follow, the well-known Cuber LaserMonkey managed to get his own max out, putting him at 27th seed. Following LaserMonkey's performance, Doge finally manages to get some of the recognition that he's deserved as a player, managing an incredibly solid qual of 4 max outs, so putting him underneath Jake and Nenu, but still very high seed. Lastly, Johan manages to get a new PB in quals to make it just above the cutoff, putting him at 59th seed with a 930. Unfortunately, all the good ends there. Sharky, Luke, and Anthony all had quals around the same time, and all 3 of them ended up less than 5k away from a max out. Luke ended up with a 995,000. Anthony ended up with a 997,000. And Sharky with an astonishing 998,000, giving him the highest non-max out score in CTWC history. Sharky ended up with a seed of 41st, Anthony ended up with a seed of 42nd, and Luke ended up with a seed of 45th. Outside of this, Mark manages to squeak by the cutoff with a 926, putting him at 61st seed. Wing manages to be the last person to make any bracket, getting 79th seed with a qualifier of 843,000. Although this day was full of surprises, both great and tragic, the current 2-time world champ will be qualifying tomorrow, and he has something special in store that no one would have seen coming. Friday was quite the eventful day, with 24 players qualifying. Outside the current world champ, you also have a few max out players making their debuts, such as Asta, Zeal, Oscar, Tugi, Pete Garrick, and Anomalous. And to make it even better, you have new 1.2 players such as Sodium and Miles, as well as Nerds debuting today. Nerds in particular is a member of the exclusive 1.3 million club. There will also be veterans such as SQR, Josh Tolles, and Dilo participating. First up, Sodium started the batch with a very promising session, scoring 4 max outs and a one-off max for their kicker. This will put them at 11th seed, just above Doge. Nerds, Miles, and Asta would follow up the spectacular performance with max outs all on their own, getting seated at 20th, 23rd, and 19th respectively. But let's talk about the qualifiers from JD, the current world champ. Up until now, the highest number of max outs was 6, set by the brothers Dog and Pixel Andy. In order for JD to continue to stay first seed, continuing the trend from last year, he would have to surpass that number, in which he did, but to say that he surpassed that number is an understatement. Joseph managed to double Dog and Pixel Andy's max outs, scoring an astonishing 12 max outs. To make it even better, he tripled the number of max outs that he had last year, and himself alone almost matched the overall number of max outs from 2019. What's more is that his session started off with 7 maxes back to back, similar to a video that he uploaded a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, such a dominant qualifier will earn him first seed in the tournament. Truly a historic run that won't ever be forgotten. It's incredibly difficult to follow up with a performance like that, but 3 more players managed to make top 64. 2019 Singapore champ Paul managed to get 28th seed with a max. Josh with a 962 got 56. Tugi with a 960 got 57th. And Anomalous with a 928 got 60th place. Others that made the bracket were SQR with an 867 for 75th seed, and Peak Eric with an 838 secured 82nd seed. Even though Friday was an eventful day, there's still plenty of crazy things that will happen over the next 2 days that will make for some compelling Tetris as the cutoff starts to form. Who all can stand out this Saturday? Let's go ahead and find out. As things get closer and nerves get to an all-time high, Saturday was filled with amazing quals. And 31 people also qualled on this day, which means that there were going to be several people bound to get knocked out the tournament. With debuting players like Richard, Fractal, Eric, and Tristop, and returning competitor Broden and them, we are bound to see some great quals. And do these players live up to the hype? First, Tristop and Eric had absolutely a spectacular performance, both players securing 2nd and 3rd seed with 7 max outs, which is higher than the brothers Dog and Pixel Andy. Tristop, however, with a lower kicker of 617,000, Eric is going to take 2nd seed underneath the world champ. And if those 2 quals weren't crazy enough, we have CTWC debuting player Sam Finch. No one expected this player to come seemingly from nowhere and to get 6 max outs in his qualifier. However, with a kicker of only 815,000, he ended up in 7th seed. Next up, we have Richard and Broden. Although not as high as the former 3 players we just discussed, still they had both amazing qualifiers, scoring 3 max outs each. Broden with a 968 kicker managed to get 14th seed, and Richard with a 901 kicker got 16th seed, putting him in the bracket of the world champ. Yikes, that's a really dangerous bracket, but also some really compelling Tetris that we can see there. This day there were so many max outs flying around, and I just have to list the next players. Scoring 2 max outs, you have Fractal, and then you have PokeNerd, Alex Kerr, Ian, and Pepe, as well as Tetris Time, all scoring a max. Then you have veterans Reed, Metal Beast, and Schoolmaster making the bracket at 52nd, 70th, and 82nd respectively. With another eventful day down and 1 more to go, this next day will determine who all will play in CTWC 2020. With over 40 players qualifying today, including prominent online players like the Asian, Jerpadude, Cheesefish, and Blank, as well as including veterans like Harry Hong, Yanni, and Ben Mullen, things are bound to change the composition of the top 64. The Asian, a very prominent 1.2 player, started off the day strong with yet being another player able to reach 6 max outs, but it doesn't stop there. Jesper, also known as TegaMech, astounds everyone and with his Qual scoring 3 maxes, awarding him the most Daz max outs in the qualifier and seeding him at 15th seed. Jeff, as in Boom Tetris for Jeff, managed to be another Daz player that scored a max out for his Qual seed under Jonas, putting him at 32nd place by just 6,000 points. But the story is really about Harry Hong. Originally saying that he was retiring from competitive back in August, after being reached out by the organizers, he had a change of heart and registered for the event. After nearly 2 months of not playing, he came back showing that he's still an amazing dominant player, scoring 2 max outs giving him 22nd place, and being one of the last players to call, he ended it with a boom, pun intended. So many players ended up making the bracket, so to even list them will take a while to go through them all. But some other familiar faces that made the bracket was Yanni at 63rd and Batfoy at 87th. These 7 days of qualifying have been some of the most painful yet exciting qualifiers ever. From JD's historic run of 12 max outs in 2 hours to the numerous players coming just 1 Tetris or less away from a max. Over this week, 167 people qualify. The cutoff for top 64 was 912,000 by Moodus. 912 for 64th seed. For perspective, 48th seed last year was 672k. Last year, 924 was the lowest 900, and that was 12th seed. This year, that 924 will get you 62nd seed. Like, what? You would almost not make the bracket with that. But wait, it doesn't end there. For the silver bracket, the next 32 seeds, the cutoff was 758,000. A 758 last year will get you 30th seed. This is going to be absolutely insane. With there being so many good players in both brackets this year, this is going to be the biggest CTWC ever. For the full list of players that qualified and their scores and everything, please check the link in the description. With that finally under wraps, let's go into our community spotlight. I'd like to spotlight Wingfryer. During the quals, they helped numerous people, giving them their games with the appropriate timestamp to help save numerous people, myself included, so much time, as well as to make things easier for the judges to verify their qualifying their scores. Wingfryer is in fact a writer, and they write articles on Tetris and other things. One of their Tetris articles is one that gives bios for each world champ of CTWC. If you have the time, I definitely recommend giving it a read. Link is in the description. Now for your top 5 highlights for this bi-weekly period. If you want to submit your clips from your games or gameplay from others that you think is noteworthy, be sure to join the Shark Tank Discord server. Link will be in the description just like everything else we discussed. Anyways, let's go ahead and go into our highlights. Number 5, Trapzone's Dig. In this clip submitted by Trapzone, he gets quite into the sticky situation. After missing a T-Tuck on level 24, he is forced to try and solve it before things get too out of control. Number 4, Timmy's Dig. In this clip submitted by Timmy, he finds himself in quite the predicament with a very high board here on 18. He manages to find the right pieces to dig out and keep the game alive.
Top out. It's usually the horizontal piece, not in the vertical. Usually horizontal. Oh my god. Come on. Come on. Okay. Not bad.
Statements like that.
Oh my god, bro. That's actually so good.
Number 3, Fractal's Last Game. This clip was submitted by Fractal and was quite the clip indeed. In one of his last games of the CTWC Quals, Fractal was at 948 at level 27 with 35 seconds on the clock. He needs to get Tetrises as soon as possible for a chance at one more game to potentially get one more max out to change his seeding.
Harry Hog was right. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Seconds. One more. Please. Two seconds left.
Number 2, Ian's max out and clutch level 30. In this clip, Ian was playing up against TegaMech in some test matches for the Max Out Club website designed by Trey. After defeating Tega, Ian continued to play, chasing the max out with some near perfect play and something a little extra.
Down 150,000 points now.
Ian, top out.
No, Ian, keep playing. Oh, that's gonna be a hangarang there. Long bar can't make it all the way over. No way, no how.
All right, Ian, finish the game.
Finish the game. I think you could max this out, right?
Pretty sure.
You got Tetrises all the way through.
As long as there are no more 20 droughts.
Right. Yeah, that wouldn't help.
There you go.
There you go. There's another long bar. 936 for Ian. Looking good on the stack indeed.
Is that 2 more Tetrises? Or
Yeah,
One.
Tetris,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
That'll do
There
it.
it is. And then he's done it!
Nice.
There it is.
All right. Level 30.
Let's go.
1 million points for Ian.
there you go.
There's another
Chris
one.
Tang
He'll
isn't
go
here.
in. Chris
Kill
Tang's
screen.
face would have melted off by now.
His chest would have imploded.
238. 239. Oh no!
Yes.
Oh, he got it! There it is! A level.
Number 1, Sharky's Insane One-Off. Forgive my personal bias this time, but this clip was too good to not put in the top 5. After misdropping an S to the left and hanging a long bar to the right, making it 10 high, things seemed over for Sharky, but despite being held back by Daz, he shows why you should never give up. Oh man! And this will conclude our Insider. First things first, thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, you are amazing and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to, please leave a comment on your favorite highlight or moment from the Qual recap. I'm excited to see what you all think of this episode. Secondly, shout out to my patrons, $5 tier Tyler, $25 tier Otapper, and $50 tier Aaron Jaws Homoki. Your support allows me to spend all these time working on content like this for the community as well as many other things. If you would like to join them in supporting my channel, be sure to check out the link in the description. Shout out goes to the reporters of the Classic Tetris Insider, Timmy and Pumpy Hearts. Be sure to check out their content as well down below in the description. Links to the clips and all the players involved in the clips will also be located in the description, so please don't forget to check them out. Last thing, there will be a fun little match between Uncle Mike and Aaron Jaws Homoki on the 28th, if my information is correct. Everything will be discussed in the description, so be sure to check that out. Once again, if you want to contribute to the show via clips or you want something Classic Tetris related on the show that maybe you're hosting like an event or a podcast or anything, be sure to join the Discord server down in the description. Anyways, this has been Classic Tetris Insider. I'm your favorite underwater host, Sharky, and I'll see you all later on the Shark Tank.